He's Van the man. He's Warren Point. He's playing in the Blues in the Bay in Sands' event, you know, in the town hall. You saw him as well, didn't you?
I saw him a few years ago, yeah.
He can be a grumpy sort of old fellow. But anyone who devotes an entire, and donates the proceeds of an entire concert to hospice, he's entitled to be grumpy.
Oh, well, I would have thought so.
We praise him with that. We praise him with that. I've got Brian Cleland with me now from the Newry legal family. Not that you're here for legal purposes. You always have to wear that badge on your coat. You'll never escape it. But Brian is here because he's part of the Newry 2020 group.
That's right.
What a lovely title, 2020. Very clever title.
Well, it was Columbo Hare came up with the title.
It's a good title.
It's a good title, yeah.
2020 vision, that's what you guys have.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
And your aim is to make a difference by 2020 and all the time in between. Remind the people of exactly what it is and what the aspirations are.
Well, it came about, as I say, it was Columbo Hare, who owns the Newry.ie site, which is quite a large following online, did a blog post towards the end of last year. And the theme of the post was really that Newry has huge untapped potential, and he listed some of his ideas for things that could be done, like developing the canal, maybe having barges on the canal, developing the Albert Basin, having more sort of cultural events and so on. And he got a very sort of strong response online to that post. And myself and a few other people contacted him and said, well, look, obviously you've tapped into something very significant here. There's a widespread recognition that we need to do something about this. And we decided to have a public meeting to see if we could actually ignite some action rather than just talk about it. And we ran our first public meeting at the start of this year. It was very well attended down at the Sugar Supper Club restaurant.
I was there, I think it may have been. It's a lovely little restaurant.
It's a fantastic restaurant.
It's a simple restaurant, but beautiful. And it's artisan cuisine, I think.
Yes, well, it's run by Neil Bradley, who's one of the sort of the core team behind Newry 2020. And Neil kindly offered his premises for the use for the meeting. And yes, I mean, it's a lovely restaurant. So we had our first meeting there, and it's a great turnout and great energy and buzz, which was gratifying and gave us the incentive, I suppose, to carry on with it. And what we did was we basically organised a workshop to see what the main ideas were, what were the things that people wanted to work on.
It's a good way forward, really. Let's have a workshop, let's tie it down a wee bit.
Exactly, yeah. Because potentially there are 1,000 things that you could do. We wanted to actually highlight or prioritise the main things. So some of the key themes that came out were sort of arts, culture and music, getting more activity around that kind of thing, maybe emulating some of the ideas from the Blues on the Bay as an example of something local that's worked well. Developing the main sort of shopping streets like Hill Street and Monaghan Street, trying to regenerate those areas. And then the third theme was really a combination of two ideas. One, a recognition that we needed a proper city park, that other cities have significant green spaces and play areas, and Newry doesn't have that at this point, and it's something we need. And then also tying that idea in with the observation that the Albert Basin as a site has huge potential that hasn't been properly fulfilled yet. And
you see, I see where you're coming from, because the Albert Basin as a piece of nauticalia, if you like, is solid and dependable, and it's beautiful and it's inspirational. And it also links us back into history. But then the land side of the Albert Basin, park written all over it.
Well, we thought so. It seemed those two things seemed to come naturally together. And out of that emerged the idea of, well, we since the opportunity is there, let's seize it. Let's campaign for a park on the Albert Basin. And, to be honest, everybody we spoke to thought that was basically a really good idea. And it gathered momentum from there. And just the last few days, we've launched an online petition. And we've in a few days we've had almost 1,000 signatures in that petition. So that to me just kind of endorses this feeling that I had and have, that this is something that there's huge demand for and that should be done.
In practical terms, how do you turn that? How does 2020 turn that obvious demand into a reality?
Well, in practical terms, I mean the council obviously plays a key role since it owns the site. And if there was funding, for that kind of development, you'd need funding, and the council would be the proper channel for that kind of funding. So getting the council on board would be critical. But even before we go to the council, we need to show that this is something that has widespread support at a grassroots level, and that's what we're focused on now with the petition, and talking to people in the community and see how we can pull together ideas so they're coherent, so they make sense. So we've addressed potential obstacles like planning, like decontaminating the site and so on.
Is there much decontamination? Decontamination is maybe a strong phrase. You'd just be cleaning it up, but then you need an artist's impression somewhere along the line.
That's right, yeah.
I'm fighting to actually visualize it.
Yeah. Some people find visualizing these things easier than others. Sometimes my imagination kind of runs away with me a bit. But yes, developing a vision that people can share and understand what we're proposing is very important. And we're actually talking to some people who have the ability to do that. For example, we got contacted by a person who's doing a master's in urban design in Queen's University. He's keen to do his dissertation on this topic.
Wow.
We've had other sort of local young architects who are helping us sort of make our ideas more solid and real. So that's something we're working on as well, alongside the petition and other things.
Yeah, okay. Time scale on these things, because if you leave them open-ended, they can drift.
Yeah. Well, getting the political backing that's necessary, getting the council on board, I suppose first we have to demonstrate the demand. That's, I imagine, going to take a few months. And then we need to engage with the council formally and get them to buy into the concept. The council has already passed a motion recently that the site should be set aside for community and recreational use.
Fantastic.
So in a sense, they're already bought in.
Yeah.
So it's just moving that forward, getting to, as you say, commit to a time-bound schedule to actually implement this.
And they've got at the moment, with the new public realm scheme, the walkway, they've got from the southern end of the quays all the way through to Sands's Mill almost.
That's right, yeah, and that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that again is part and parcel of what you're about. So it's a natural walkway leading away from the park, the Albert Park, the Albert Basin Park, and leading back to it.
Well, I mean, it's something that's been recognised even in the master plan, that the waterways and the waterfront is something that needs to be developed, and the council, to be fair, are already acting on that with the promenade, and we see our proposal as very much fitting with that. And then also the other important part of the puzzle, in a sense, is the Eastern Greenway, which has been developed from Carlingford to the Albert
That's
Basin.
coming up the middle bank, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, and work has begun on that.
On the southern side, I think the Carlingford Domeath bit is being launched very soon.
Yeah.
And that's going to go all the way up, as you say, up to Victoria Lock and cross over onto the middle bank and on into...
You see, it's a funny enough thing, and I muse on this because nothing changes. 30 years ago, I was where you are. And I would say we were dealing with people called Enterprise Ulster.
Right.
And we were going to have a linear park from the locks at Fathom up to the basin. And we were going to have all kinds of wonderful things we found at the Canal Preservation Society.
Yes.
And if we hadn't done that, you would have no canal today to be concerned about because people wanted to fill it in and use it as industrial ground. We stopped them doing that. So really and truly, this brings a smile of contentment to my face that something like this continues on, and that's a great thing.
Well, I think, that's an important point, and I think any success that hopefully we will have will be very much based on standing on the shoulders of giants, I think.
Yeah, well, we're in that sense, standing on the shoulder of giants, it demonstrates a continuum of Newry populace's interest in the canal.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge strength for you.
It is huge strength, and it's something, it's very deep-rooted in the community, in our local culture, and this in many ways is just a kind of an outpouring of that sense of let's embrace it.
Yeah, and you have two wonderful organisations involved around the canal. You have the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland, they're there already, established and strong, and you have the Newry Maritime Association, established and strong. So you've great friends in camp, influential friends.
Yeah, and certainly a few members of the Newry Maritime Association have been to our meetings and are very supportive of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And they led the northern side of the Eastern Greenway project, which fits in with what we're trying to do. So there's definitely continuity there.
Okay. How many people have you on 2020 at the moment? Have you grown strong?
Well, our meetings have been around. We may have to think about moving venues because Sugar Supper Club's a lovely venue, but obviously as the numbers grow, We've had maybe around about 30 or 40. So
that's great.
Which is good, yeah. And it's not just the numbers; it's about what people bring. There's real appetite to do things, and that's because it's a grassroots movement. We have to do things ourselves. So, and that energy is there, you know.
Well, the energy of the past and the shoulder, the giant whose shoulder you undoubtedly stand upon, is the shoulders of your grandfather, Luke Curran, an iconic member of the legal profession in Newry. Marvellously respected over the generations, a great man who's gone long ago now to his reward, and it's a joy to have Luke Curran's grandchild in here with me.
Thanks very much.
We wish you well. Take care.
Thank you, Rowan.
God bless you. Go well. Take care.